And I think we're going pretty directly into this because
I think so. Yeah.
Mercedes has a
I mean, we
pretty
were
awesome story.
okay. Let's not put it on a pedestal. It's an average story, I would say, but it was about the worst date of my life. And it was recently. Like I used to, obviously before I was in the relationship, I was dating and all this stuff, and I've never had a date this bad in my life. In my whole life. So basically, what I do when I go on a first date is like I go for a walk with the person, and like either that's coffee or just like a walk. So that, in where I live, there's a walk that you can do that you can kind of turn around at a certain point or keep going. So I'm like, oh, this is a good place to turn around if it sucks, or keep going.
I have to
So
say
anyways,
something. Can I say like a really tiny thing? I'm just
yeah.
for all the guys out there. I'm just like I'm feeling you, bros. I'm feeling you, bros. You're going through some things that are very hard to go through. Ladies are putting a lot of, the bar is high, and um, yeah, I just feel you guys. Yeah, please continue.
Yep, sure thing. So freaking I was like, it was like later at night, and this guy lived about an hour away in like the main city. So like there's a main city where I live, and then I live in a kind of like smaller town about an hour away. And I'm obviously Canadian because it's an hour away. I don't talk in kilometers. We talk in time.
Jesus freaking an hour. I wouldn't even consider going on a date. Like hour. Jesus freaking Christ, what the hell is
Yeah.
happening?
So he drove from the other city to me, and I was like, it's up to you what you want to do. And it was just sort of like a spur of the moment thing. And we meet at this place, and I see him, and I'm like, okay, so he looks like his pictures. That's the first thing. I'm like, okay, good. Not catfish shit. So we start talking and walking, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden I'm just like, oh geez. So where at this one place, there's these cool little sound circles. So you can go in those, and if you clap, it like does this cool reverberation thing. And so he goes in it, and I kind of stand like a little close to him, but not really. And I was like, and then he's like, come here. I was like, oh my God. So like aggressively, okay, plot twist, he's an Aries. I was like, oh, what the fuck am I doing? So anyways, he does that, and he claps really loud, like right close to me. So I hear that thing happen, and I was like, okay, all right. And then we started walking, and basically, if I were to sum it up, he grilled me about why I don't drink the entire time, but not in a way that was like, oh yeah, I understand. It was like, why do you abstain? I was like,
Abstain.
abstain. That's an aggressive word for what
That's
I
a
do.
very aggressive word. I would say I'm tending to now come to your camp more because that's a very
Hmm.
aggressive word.
Why do you abstain? And then I'm like, well, I don't know. Like I have lots of reasons. Like spirit. At first, I'm like, I don't really think of it as abstaining. Like it's not something that I want and am pushing away. I'm just don't want it. So, and then, well, do you eat processed sugar? Do you drink caffeine? Do you? I'm like, you don't get it. Like you just don't get it. And then one of my pet peeves is like, I work with a lot of people who are in pain. And I'm talking pain, like chronic pain, really, really, really heavy pain in their bodies. And this guy's like, oh, yeah, I have chronic pain in my ankle. And I'm like, mm. And he's like, oh, yeah, like you know, I keep it together and all this stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God, you are so obviously faking this. Like, I see people in pain, and you are not in pain, buddy. And anyways, it turned out we had some mutual connections, and so I called my buddy and I'm like, hey, you know this guy, hey? And he's like, I think so. I was like, hey, look him up, blah, blah, blah. And my friend's like, oh, this guy, what the? I was like, okay, that's all I need to know. Goodbye, never to speak again. So then I messaged him on the app that we met, and I was like, hey, nice to meet you, but don't think it's gonna work out. And then he's like, oh well, yeah, I definitely I agree, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nah, sorry, I know you liked me, and now you're feeling sad about being rejected. But it was the worst. That was the worst. I feel like that's pretty tame for being the worst, but also like it was like I didn't really necessarily want to be grilled when going out for a nice evening walk. It's like there was no real conversation past that.
I still feel you guys. Like, for me, I just need to start with that because it's like, in today's world, like, I'll just start over. I don't know even where to start because it's wild.
I want to give one thing. I want to give one thing. So if you're the guy that I went on the date with and you're listening to this, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is my perspective.
This is the thing. It's like, you know, in the olden times, I don't know how, when I used to date, you know, you could still see
Olden times.
you could still see, you know, mutual friends and connections, but like, I personally, I didn't even want to look at those things. In a lot of ways because I wanted to get to know the person. That was because, you know, like, if you call a other person and you get their perspective of that person, you know, that's a little bit tainted in my book. And obviously you can do that, but guys, I just feel you for you. It's like, you know, the online, everything is online.
He reminded me so much of this guy I dated a long time ago. And the reason why I ended up breaking up with that guy was because he parked. This was the final. What do you call it? What do you call it when it's
straw? Like final straw?
Yeah, the straw that broke the camel's back. So he had a car that was a Subaru that was like this high off the ground, like lowered. Like, and I don't know why I was like thinking that would be cool, but whatever. He parked in a handicap stall, and I was like, why are you parking here? Like, there's a spot like right over there. And he's like, oh, we're just going in for really quick. What are they going to do? Tow us? And I was like,
okay, so that's
not the point.
That's a game changer for me as well. I was like,
yeah. So it was the same energy as that.
Okay.
And I was like picking up on this. I'm like, I think that, you know, not that you would do that specifically, but I was like, I think you're that type of a person.
Okay. I was getting these stories from the streets. It's
literally from the street.
Literally from the streets. It's I'm happy I'm not in that game anymore. And if I was, I wouldn't care. I would play it, you know, just as I would play it. I know the game has changed and people have changed.
For me, I just want someone that I can talk to, you know, and if I get grilled for like one tiny little, mostly uninteresting thing about me, I'm like, that's just, you know, there's so much more depth that can be achieved. It's not satisfying to me to be talking and always trying to explain myself. It's like you kind of got to just get me and then we can discuss things. It's like, yeah.